Warhammer 40,000. VekTa Chapters. The Tale of VekTa Prime. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. For 10,000 years, the Imperium of mankind has stood against the darkness, its soldiers fighting and dying on 1,000,000 worlds. But on VekTa Prime, the darkness has a name. It is ancient, it is patient, and it is made of metal. The Kalor family had defended VekTa Prime for 3 generations. They were not noble by birth, but by blood and sacrifice. General Liam Kalor had fought his first battle at the age of 17, when the Necron Immortals first breached the eastern walls. He had lost his wife to the Gauss Flayers in the Second Siege. He had buried his brother in the ruins of the old spice market. And still he stood. Still he fought. His son, Commissar Nivtoris Kalor, had been inducted into the VekTa Marines at the age of 12. He had grown up, not in a home, but in a fortress. Not with toys, but with weapons. The VekTa Marines were the planet's greatest defenders, super soldiers forged in the ancient traditions of the Adeptus Astartes, their armor etched with the gold filigree of their Aztec heritage and the iron will of the Imperium. And then there were the younger ones, Sergeant Jasmina Kalor, fierce and fearless, who had earned her rank by leading a charge through a Necron phalanx at the age of 22, and Lieutenant Camtavius Kalor, the youngest, who still carried the weight of expectation like a second suit of armor. Together, they were the Kalors of VekTa Prime, and today they would face their greatest test. The Necrons were not like other enemies of the Imperium. They did not hunger as the Tyranids did. They did not rage as the Orcs did. They did not corrupt as the forces of chaos did. The Necrons simply waited. For 60 million years they had slept in their tomb worlds, their metallic bodies preserved in the stasis of eternity. And now, one by one, they were waking up. Overlord Mardosa had been awake for 3 centuries. In that time, he had consumed 7 worlds, converting their populations to dust and their lands to silver. He was not cruel, for cruelty implied emotion. He was simply efficient. Organic life was an aberration, a temporary infestation in a universe that belonged to the metal and the machine. The Necrons had once been flesh and blood, millions of years ago. They had traded that flesh for immortality, and in doing so, had traded everything that made them alive. Mardosa did not hate the Kalors. He simply found them inconvenient. The megatropolis of VekTa Prime was a city that refused to die. In the lower districts, the markets still opened each morning, though the stalls now sold ammunition alongside tortillas. The great obsidian pyramids that served as hive spires were draped in both the golden aquila of the Imperium and the colorful papel picado of the planet's ancient festivals. Children played in the shadow of artillery emplacements. Priests of the Emperor held services in the ruins of bombed-out cathedrals. The people of VekTa Prime had a saying: "We were here before the stars were named. We will be here when the stars go dark." It was a saying born of stubbornness, of a culture that had survived conquest, famine, and 100 years of Necron assault. They were not warriors by nature. They were farmers, merchants, artists, and priests. But necessity had made them soldiers, and the Kalors had made them believe that survival was possible. On this day, that belief would be tested to its very limits. The twin moons of VekTa Prime hung like mismatched ornaments in a bruised purple sky. One was a shattered husk, a cluster of orbiting rubble that cast jagged shadows across the land. The other glowed with a malevolent neon green luminescence, a beacon of the Necron presence that had swallowed the eastern half of the planet. Below, the megatropolis of VekTa Prime sprawled in a chaotic blend of imperial Gothic grandeur and vibrant ancient Mexican heritage. Massive obsidian pyramids served as hive spires, their slopes adorned with holographic banners of the Aquila and colorful murals depicting the planet's ancestral warriors. But the colors were fading, choked by the dust of a century of war. In the western sector, the last bastion of humanity clung to the ruins. The air tasted of ozone, burnt cinnamon, a lingering scent from the city's ancient spice markets, now repurposed as munitions depots. General Liam Kalor stood upon the ramparts of the obsidian bastion. He was a man carved from granite, his face a map of scars and wisdom. He clutched a gold-plated data slate, his eyes narrowing as the green pulsed. Beside him stood Commissar Nivtoros Kalor, the bridge between the General's strategic patience and the raw power of the front lines. Clad in the midnight black armor of the VekTa Marines, Nivtoros looked like a living statue of war. He held a power sword that crackled with blue energy, the blade humming a song of impending conflict. Nivtoros turned to the courtyard below, where the Astra Militarum soldiers were digging in. Among them, leading a squad of heavy weapon teams, was Sergeant Jasmina Kalor. She was a whirlwind of energy, her armor scuffed and stained with the red dust of the planet. Near her, Lieutenant Camtivius Kalor was checking the seals on his plasma gun. He was younger, his face still holding a trace of boyish eagerness, though his eyes were hardened by the reality of the Necron threat.
Soldiers of the Imperium, men and women of VekTa Prime, today the enemy comes for our home. They come for our families, our temples, our markets, our memories. The Necrons believe that because they cannot die, they cannot be stopped. I have spent 40 years proving them wrong. You have spent your lives proving them wrong. Today, we prove them wrong one final time. Hold the line. Fight for every stone, every street, every soul in this city. The Emperor protects, and so do we.
You heard the General. Every one of you is worth 10 of those tin soldiers. They can't feel pain, they can't feel fear, but they also can't feel what we feel right now. That fire in your chest, that's not fear. That's the Emperor's will burning through you. Now let's go show these machines what it means to be alive!
They are moving, Nivtoros. The scanners show a massive surge in Gauss energy. Mardosa isn't just raiding this time. He's coming for the heart of the city.
He wants the Spire of Soul. If the Necrons take the Spire, they can broadcast a signal to awaken every dormant tomb world in this sector. We cannot let that happen.
Come on, you lot! Get those heavy bolters mounted! The metalheads won't wait for you to finish your recap! Move, move, move!
Seals are holding. Power output is stable. We're ready, Jazz.
There's so many of them. I've never seen so many in one place. They just keep coming. How do we fight that?
One at a time. You don't fight an army, Cam. You fight the one in front of you. Then the next one. Then the next. That's all. One at a time.
Look at them. 3 generations of Kalors standing against the tide. It is a heavy burden we place on the children.
They are not children anymore, Father. They are soldiers of the Imperium, and they are ready.
Across the dividing line, in the silver wastes of the east, Overlord Mardosa watched the western city through a holographic projection. Mardosa was a creature of living metal, his body a spindly, elegant construction of necrodermis that shifted like liquid mercury. He wore a cape of woven energy that shimmered with a sickly green light, and his eyes were 2 piercing emerald sparks in a featureless metallic skull. With a wave of his long, articulated fingers, Mardosa gave the command. The ground began to shake. From beneath the silver sands, thousands of Necron warriors rose in eerie unison, their metallic feet clicking against the earth. Beside them, towering monoliths floated into the air, their surfaces humming with destructive energy. The attack began not with a shout, but with a flash.
Warriors of the Mefrit dynasty, the Organics have held this city for 100 of their years. 100 years of borrowed time. Today, that debt is collected. The Spire of Soul contains the resonance key that will awaken the sepulchral tomb beneath this world. When it activates, 150,000 of our kin will rise, and this sector will belong to the Necrons once more. Advance. Take the city. Leave nothing standing. Such fragile things. They build their monuments of stone and flesh, thinking they can defy the inevitable sleep. The Kalors believe their bloodline grants them strength. I shall show them that blood is merely a liquid that leaks when the metal cuts.
The Necron advance was unlike anything the Imperial Guard had faced before. It was not a charge, not a rush of screaming bodies. It was a march, slow, methodical, inexorable. 10,000 metallic warriors moving in perfect unison, their feet clicking against the red soil of VekTa Prime, their eyes glowing with the cold light of the green moon. They did not shout. They did not rage. They simply came. And behind them, the monoliths. Massive obsidian structures that floated above the ground on fields of anti-gravity energy, their surfaces inscribed with the hieroglyphic script of a civilization older than humanity's first fire. Each monolith was a weapon, a fortress, and a tomb, all in one. particle whip emitters charged with a sound like the universe itself being torn. The first volley from the Imperial Guard's heavy bolters cut through the front ranks of the Necron advance. Bodies fell. But even as they fell, the green light of the Necron's self-repair systems flickered to life, and the fallen began to rise again. The Necrons did not die easily. They did not die at all, unless you destroyed them completely.
Incoming! Get down!
Get those lasers humming! Fire at will! Give 'em hell!
The Astra Militarum responded with a wall of fire. Thousands of lasguns discharged simultaneously, creating a grid of red beams that crisscrossed the battlefield. The Necron warriors marched forward, their shields flickering as they absorbed the hits, their own Gauss flares spitting emerald bolts that stripped the armor and flesh from anything they touched. Camtavius felt the heat of a near miss sear the air beside his helmet. He gritted his teeth, bracing his plasma gun against a ruined wall. He pulled the trigger, and a sphere of searing blue plasma tore through a rank of Necron warriors, vaporizing them into metallic mist. But for every 10 that fell, 20 more seemed to emerge from the ground.
Hold the line! Don't let them breach the first gate! For the Emperor and for VekTa Prime!
The battle became a chaotic symphony of clashing metal and explosive energy. Jasmina arrived at the south wall just as the Immortals were about to break through. She didn't just lead, she fought. She swung a heavy power maul, smashing the head of a Necron warrior into 1,000 shards of silver. As the battle raged, the green moon above seemed to grow brighter, pulsing in time with the Necron's advance. Overlord Mardosa decided it was time to end the stalemate. He stepped forward, floating inches above the ground, his energy cape billowing. He carried a staff of ancient design, topped with a pulsing emerald orb. The force of the blast cracked the very foundation of the obsidian bastion. General Liam, watching from above, realized the danger. If Mardosa reached the spire, the city was lost.
Not on my watch, you oversized toaster. Keep it coming, little brother. Give him some heat.
I'm trying, Jas, but there's too many of them.
Then make every shot count.
The eastern flank is holding. The Necron Immortals have been slowed by the tank traps, but the monoliths are moving into range. If they open fire on the bastion walls, we'll lose the outer defenses within minutes. We need to draw Mardosa out. Make him come to us.
He'll come. Mardosa has never been able to resist the Spire of Soul. It's the one thing that drives him, the one thing he needs. He'll come for it himself, because he doesn't trust his warriors to take it intact. And when he does, that's when we strike.
Father! The south wall is buckling!
Jasmina, pivot your squad to the south flank. Camtavius, provide covering fire. Nivtoris, lead the Marines in a countercharge. Now!
VekTa Marines, advance!
Enough of this tedious dance. Kaelors, your lineage ends today. Your city shall become a tomb, and your name shall be erased from the annals of time.
The wave of Necron energy that Mardosa unleashed was unlike any weapon in the Imperial arsenal. It did not burn. It did not explode. It simply unmade. The obsidian walls of the bastion cracked as if they were made of glass. 3 squads of Astra Militarum soldiers were thrown from the ramparts like toys. The very ground beneath the city groaned.
ancient foundations shifting as the energy pulse disrupted the geological stability of the planet itself. For a moment, the battlefield fell silent. The Necron advance paused, as if even the machines were waiting to see what would rise from the dust. And then, one by one, the Kalors stood up. Jasmina was the first. She pulled herself to her feet, spitting blood from a split lip, her power mole crackling with renewed energy. Camtavius rose next, his plasma gun still clutched in both hands, his knuckles white against the grip. And Nivtoris. Nivtoris rose like a statue being unveiled, his black armor gleaming, his power sword humming with a sound like a war hymn. They were battered. They were outnumbered. They were exhausted. But they were Kalors. And Kalors did not kneel.
Nivtoras, we cannot fight them in the streets forever. We must take the fight to the Overlord.
The Marines can carve a path, but we need the Guard to hold the perimeter, or we'll be surrounded.
I'll handle the perimeter. I will lead the remaining regiments in a final stand at the gates. You, Camtavius, and Jasmina, you three are the spearhead. Go! Destroy Mardosa! Go! For the honor of our house and the survival of VekTa Prime!
Be careful, Uncle Niv.
Fear is a tool, Camtavius. Use it to stay sharp. But remember who you are. You are a Kalor.
And if you get scared, just remember I'm the one who's actually in charge of the heavy lifting.
In your dreams, Jas.
The family gathered for a brief, breathless moment amidst the smoke. The sound of explosions echoed around them, but for a few seconds, there was a strange, quiet intimacy. The strike team moved with purpose. Nivtoris led the way, his power sword cutting a swath through the Necron ranks. Camtavius provided the long-range devastation, his plasma gun turning the silver plains into lakes of molten metal. Jasmina was the anchor, her power mole crushing any Necron that dared to flank them. They fought their way toward the center of the city, moving through the ruined markets and past the shattered pyramids. The citizens of VekTa Prime, those who had survived, cheered from the balconies of their homes, throwing colorful petals and shouting prayers to the Emperor. The sight of the Kalors fighting side by side gave the people hope. Finally, they reached the plaza of the Spire of Soul. Overlord Mardosa waited for them, his expression one of cold boredom. The plaza of the Spire of Soul was a vast open space, once used for the great festivals of the city. Colorful mosaics still covered the ground, though many were cracked and stained with the residue of battle. The spire itself rose above them, a needle of black obsidian that pierced the sky, its peak lost in the clouds. At its base, the ancient resonance chamber hummed with a power that predated the Imperium itself. Overlord Mardosa stood before it, his metallic form radiating cold authority. He had dismissed his bodyguards. He did not need them for 3 organics. He had faced armies and found them wanting. He had watched civilizations rise and fall like tides. 3 soldiers, however brave, however determined, were nothing more than a minor inconvenience. He had made a mistake. He had forgotten
that inconveniences left unchecked had a habit of becoming catastrophes.
The remnants of a dying house. You come to me with a child and a girl, thinking that bravery replaces power.
We don't need power. We have something you've forgotten in your millions of years of sleep. Family.
And what is that, little organic?
The attack was instantaneous. Mardosa lashed out with his staff, sending a bolt of green lightning toward Nivtoris. The Commissar blocked it with his blade, the impact sending sparks flying, but the force pushed him back. Camtavius fired a maximum output plasma bolt. Mardosa shifted his position, the bolt grazing his shoulder and melting a hole through his necrodermis, but he remained unfazed. As the Overlord turned to eliminate the lieutenant, Jasmina leaped from a ruined pillar, bringing her power maul down with all her strength on Mardosa's head. The blow didn't destroy him, but it staggered him, the shockwave rattling his metallic frame. But that opening was all Nivtoris needed. He lunged forward, his jump pack giving him a sudden burst of speed. He drove the power sword deep into the Overlord's chest, piercing the glowing green core that powered his existence. The explosion shattered the Overlord's physical form, sending a shockwave that deactivated the surrounding Necron forces. The green glow faded from the sky, leaving only the shattered moon and the rising sun. The Kaelor stood amidst the wreckage, battered but victorious. VekTa Prime would survive to fight another day.
Now! For VekTa Prime!
You insolent pest! Error. Critical failure. This cannot be!
The death of Overlord Mardosa sent a shockwave through the Necron network. Without his command protocols, the Necron warriors entered a state of confusion, their movements becoming erratic and uncoordinated. The monoliths, deprived of their command signal, began to drift and eventually settle to the ground, their weapons going dark. Across the battlefield, the Necron advance faltered, then stopped. Then, one by one, the warriors began to phase out, their bodies dissolving into streams of green light as their teleportation systems activated, pulling them back to the tomb world below the surface. The silver tide receded. General Liam Kaelor watched from the gates of the bastion as the last of the Necrons disappeared. Around him, his soldiers were cheering, embracing, weeping. He did not cheer. He had seen too many battles to celebrate before the dead were counted. But when his son descended from the sky on his jump pack, and his granddaughter and grandson emerged from the ruins of the market, alive and whole, the old general allowed himself one thing. He smiled. The war for VekTa Prime was not over. It would never truly be over, not while the tomb world slept beneath their feet. But today, the city had survived. Today, the Kalos had stood, and the darkness had blinked. And in the grim darkness of the far future, sometimes that was enough. The Battle of VekTa Prime would be recorded in the annals of the Imperium as a minor engagement, a footnote in the endless chronicle of humanity's wars. The Administratum would note the destruction of one Necron overlord
the temporary suppression of one tomb world activation, and the survival of one megatropolis. They would assign it a designation, file it in a data vault, and move on to the next crisis. But on VekTa Prime, they would remember it differently. They would remember the night the green moon went dark. They would remember the sound of the Necrons retreating, the clicking of 10,000 metal feet growing fainter and fainter until there was only silence. They would remember standing on their balconies and looking up at a sky that was, for the first time in a century, just a sky. And they would remember the Kalors, the old general on the ramparts, the commissar with the singing sword, the sergeant who laughed in the face of death, the lieutenant who learned that fear was not the enemy. They would tell their children, and their children would tell their children, and the story would grow as stories do, until it was something larger than the truth and truer than the facts. The Kalors had stood, and VekTa Prime had survived. For the Emperor, and for home.
Reign of Metropolis blurred the neon lights of the city, but inside the sterile chrome corridors of the Wayne Tech Research Facility, the atmosphere was electric with tension. Batman stood before a holographic terminal, his cape pooling around his boots like a shadow. The screen flickered with intercepted transmissions from a coordinate far beyond the known reaches of the Milky Way.
He actually did it. He found a way out.
Finding is one thing, Bruce. Negotiating is another.
Lex Luthor has disappeared from every radar on Earth, Alfred. But these signals are coming from a place called VekTa Prime. He isn't just hiding. He's collaborating.
Collaborating with whom, sir?
Something old. Something metallic. The signals match no known biological or mechanical signature on our planet. Prepare the interstellar jump ship, Alfred. I'm going to VekTa Prime.
Greetings, Batman. I imagine you're wondering why I've left your quaint little marble of a planet. I've found a partner who understands the true meaning of order. Overlord Mardoshan 78 and I have reached an agreement. Together, we shall bring the discipline of the Necrons to Earth, and in exchange, I shall help him secure the heart of VekTa Prime. Species? Please, I am ascending. If you wish to stop me, you'll have to find your way to the edge of the galaxy. But be warned, the VekTa Militarium doesn't take kindly to trespassers.
The journey through the warp was a blur of colors that defied physics. But when the ship finally breached the atmosphere of VekTa Prime, Batman gasped. The sky was a deep bruised purple, swirling with warp currents. To the left, a glowing green moon cast an eerie light over the landscape. To the right, a second moon lay shattered, its fragments floating in a ring of silent stone. As the ship descended toward the western hemisphere, the architecture emerged. It was a breathtaking fusion of sci-fi Mayan pyramids and towering Gothic spires, with colorful Mexican-style plazas and vibrant murals depicting ancient victories. However, the beauty was marred by the sounds of war. As the ramp of the jump ship lowered, Batman was immediately surrounded by soldiers in massive ornate power armor. Their plating was a deep crimson and gold, etched with holy runes. Leading them was a giant of a man, his armor scarred by 1,000 battles.
Halt, stranger. You enter the domain of the VekTa Militarium. State your purpose, or be cast into the warp. I'm looking for Lex Luthor. I was told he's allied with the Necrons. Luthor? The bald interloper from the blue planet? You've come a long way to chase a ghost, little man.
I'm not a ghost hunter. I'm a detective.
Silence, Camtavius. I am Chapter Master Neftiris Kalor. You are in the presence of the defenders of this world. If you seek Luthor, you seek the enemy. But since you've come to help, perhaps we can find a common cause. I don't need a cause. I need to stop a genocide. Then come. You shall meet my father. He is the only one with the authority to grant you passage to the dividing line.
A detective in a cape. I like him, Uncle Nivturus. He has a certain dramatic flair.
They marched through the city, where the citizens cheered the returning Marines. Batman noted the strange blend of cultures, people in traditional embroidered clothing walking alongside servo skulls and plasma generators. They arrived at a massive fortress that looked like a Mayan temple built from reinforced plasteel. Inside, sitting upon a throne of carved obsidian, was an older man with a face like a road map of war. He wore a general's uniform of the Astra Militarium, medals clinking on his chest. General Liam Kalor, this is the man from Earth. He seeks the traitor Luthor. General Liam looked Batman up and down.
You're very small for a warrior, son. Where is your armor? Where is your bolter?
I rely on my mind and my training, General.
The dividing line. For centuries, we have fought the Necrons for control of VekTa Prime. It is a stalemate of blood and metal. But Luthor has changed the equation. He has provided Overlord Mardashian 78 with Earth's advanced computing algorithms, allowing the Necrons to predict our troop movements with terrifying accuracy.
Luthor isn't just helping them. He's using them. He wants the Necrons to clear the way, so he can install himself as the governor of a conquered world. Then we strike now, before the Necrons can launch a full-scale invasion of the West, which is why we won't walk. I've analyzed the atmospheric currents. If we use your drop pods and my stealth gliders, we can bypass the perimeter and strike the central pyramid. Go. Protect this world and protect the stranger. If Luthor falls, the Necrons may retreat to their tombs. If he succeeds, we are all dead.
Mind and training against a Necron death mark? You'll be dust before you can blink.
Jasmina, be polite. He traveled across the void in a ship the size of a storage crate. That takes more courage than a plasma grenade. Courage is not a substitute for firepower, brother. I am Battle Sister Jasmina. If we're to work together, you need to understand the stakes. Look at the map. Easy for you to say. The East is a death trap. The terrain is shifted by the Overlord's will. One wrong step and the ground opens up to swallow you whole. Now that sounds like a plan. Uncle, can we go? Please tell me we can go.
The deployment was a chaotic symphony of screaming engines and rushing wind. Batman plummeted through the purple clouds, his cape snapping violently. Beside him, the three Kalors descended like crimson meteors, their drop pods slamming into the metallic soil of the east side with earth-shaking thuds. As the dust cleared, the landscape was alien and cold. Silver spires rose like needles into the sky, and the ground hummed with a low rhythmic vibration. Suddenly, a beam of emerald light sliced through the air, narrowly missing Camtavius. Out of the silver mist stepped a lean, skeletal figure with a long, ornate rifle. It was Maratakia, the Deathmark. The creature didn't speak, but its eyes glowed with a malevolent green light. Jasmina charged forward. Her chainsword roared to life, the teeth chewing through the Necron's metallic shoulder. Maratakia hissed, a sound like steam escaping a valve, and swung its rifle like a club, knocking the battle sister back. Batman didn't attack head-on. He vanished into the silver grass, using a series of smoke pellets to confuse the Necron's sensors. While the Kalors provided a loud, distracting frontal assault, Batman circled behind. As Maritakia turned to face the captain, Batman leaped from a silver ridge, slamming a high-frequency EMP device onto the Necron's back. The device detonated with a sharp crack. The Deathmark froze, its green lights flickering and dimming. With a swift motion, Batman used a grapple to pull the creature's head back and delivered a powerful strike to its central processor. The Necron collapsed, its body clicking as it entered a forced hibernation.
Stay sharp. The death marks are near. They hide in the shadows of the silver grass. I can feel them. The air tastes like ozone and old copper. Contact! Over there! In the shimmering haze! You're out of your league, scrap heap! Hey, Buckethead! Is this the best the Overlord has to offer? Not bad, little man. You actually fought a death mark and lived.
He was predictable, but the main force is coming.
Stay sharp. The death marks are near. They hide in the shadows of the silver grass. He was predictable, but the main force is coming.
From the horizon, a tide of silver warriors began to emerge, marching in perfect, terrifying unison. At their head was a floating throne of gold and emerald, carrying the towering form of Overlord Mardosian 78. Beside him stood Lex Luthor, looking triumphant. The three Marines charged, a wall of crimson steel. The clash was thunderous. Bolter shells collided with Gauss beams, creating explosions of green and orange fire. Batman moved like a ghost among the giants, using his gadgets to disable the Necron warriors' joints and hacking into their communication arrays. Batman climbed a nearby spire, leaping from ledge to ledge until he was positioned directly above Luthor and the Overlord. He dove, his cape billowing, and slammed into Luthor, knocking him off the floating throne. The two men tumbled across the metallic ground, wrestling in the dirt. Above them, Overlord Mardosian 78 raised his staff to incinerate them both. But before the beam could fire, a massive explosion rocked the throne. General Liam Kaylor had arrived, leading a full assault of the Astra Militarium. Tanks crashed through the silver dunes, their cannons roaring. The distraction was enough. Nifturus and his niece and nephew converged on the Overlord. Together, they delivered a coordinated strike. A bolter blast to the joints, a chainsword slash to the power core, and a final crushing blow from Nifturus's power sword. Mardosian 78 shrieked, a sound of grinding metal, as his form flickered and collapsed. His consciousness, severed from the local network, was forced back into the depths of the stasis tombs. The remaining Necron warriors, losing their central command, froze in place, their green lights fading to a dull grey. Silence fell over the battlefield. The purple sky seemed to brighten, the warp currents calming. Luthor lay on his back, staring up at the fragmented moon.
How touching! The world's greatest detective and a family of oversized tin soldiers! You're too late, Batman. The synchronization is complete. The dividing line is no longer a border. It is a gateway. You're a traitor to everything you claim to stand for, Lex. You talk about human excellence, yet you bow to a machine! I don't bow, Batman. I partner. Mardosian provides the power, and I provide the vision. Once we secure VekTa Prime, Earth will be the first of many worlds to enter our new era of enlightenment. See? He doesn't respect you. He respects results. And the result is that you are all about to be erased. You arrogant fool! You underestimated the one thing you can't calculate, Lex. Loyalty. I had it all. The power, the order. You had a delusion, Lex. And now you have a very long trip back to a very small cell.
Organic filth. You cling to a dying world. The stars belong to the Necron tier. Your vision, Luthor, is merely a tool for my convenience.
Not on my watch! Kaylor's! For the Imperium! For VekTa Prime!
Enough of this farce.
Get away from my planet, you overgrown toaster!
Shouting! Get away from my planet, you overgrown toaster! General Liam stepped off his tank, his boots clanking on the metal. He looked at the defeated Luthor and then at Batman. Nifturus approached, his armor covered in silver dust and oil. The Kalors escorted Batman back to the city. The celebration was grand, with the Mayan-style plazas filled with music, dancing, and feasts of exotic fruits and spiced meats. The people of VekTa Prime toasted to the Dark Knight of Earth and the Saviors of the West. As the festivities continued, Batman stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The purple sky was turning a soft indigo, and the green moon cast a peaceful glow over the colorful buildings.
You fought well, stranger. You may be small, but you have the heart of a space marine.
I'll take that as a compliment, General. I must admit, your detective methods were efficient. Perhaps there is more to your world than just capes and gadgets.
We have our strengths.
And I still think you should have used a bigger gun. He did fine, Jazz. He's a warrior of the shadows. Very mysterious, very moody. He fits right in with the gothic vibe of this place. It's a strange world.
It is. But it's a world worth defending.
My father wants to offer you an honorary title, Knight of the VekTa Militarium. It comes with a very large medal and a very heavy cloak.
I think I have enough cloaks.
Fair enough. But know that if the shadows of Earth ever become too heavy, you have a home here, among the stars.
Thank you, Nifturus.
Now come. Jasmina's trying to convince the General that we should build a statue of you in the center of the plaza. She's arguing that it should be 50 feet tall and made of obsidian.
Please tell her no.
I tried, but she's a battle sister. Once she decides on a mission, there is no stopping her.
Alfred.
Yes, sir. Remind me to update the database on Necron biology. And order some Mexican food for when we get home. I've developed a taste for it.
Of course, sir. I shall arrange it immediately.
You fought well, stranger. You may be small, but you have the heart of a space marine. I must admit, your detective methods were efficient. Perhaps there is more to your world than just capes and gadgets.
And I still think you should have used a bigger gun.
He did fine, Jazz. He's a warrior of the shadows. Very mysterious, very moody. He fits right in with the gothic vibe of this place. It's a strange world. My father wants to offer you an honorary title, Knight of the VekTa Militarium. It comes with a very large medal and a very heavy cloak. Fair enough. But know that if the shadows of Earth ever become too heavy, you have a home here, among the stars. Now come. Jasmina is trying to convince the General that we should build a statue of you in the center of the plaza. She's arguing that it should be 50 feet tall and made of obsidian. I tried, but she's a battle sister. Once she decides on a mission, there is no stopping her.
And I still think you should have used a bigger gun. He did fine, Jazz. He's a warrior of the shadows. Very mysterious, very moody. He fits right in with the gothic vibe of this place.
As Batman boarded his jump ship to return to Metropolis, he looked back one last time. He saw the Kalor family standing together, the General, the Chapter Master, the Captain, and the Battle Sister, a wall of strength and love in a galaxy of endless war. The ship vanished into the swirling colors of the warp, leaving VekTa Prime behind. The planet remained, a beacon of vibrant culture and iron will, standing defiant against the darkness of the void, guarded by the Kalors and remembered by a man who walked in the shadows. Back on Earth, Lex Luthor sat in his cell, staring at the ceiling. He could still hear the grinding voice of Mardosian 78 in his dreams.
He had sought a kingdom, but he had found only the cold, indifferent silence of the machines. And in the Batcave, Bruce Wayne looked at a small piece of silver metal he had kept from the battlefield. It was a fragment of a Necron warrior's plating. He placed it in a display case, a reminder that no matter how vast the universe or how strange the enemy, the fight for justice was the same everywhere. The purple skies of VekTa Prime were far away, but the bond forged in the fire of the dividing line remained. The alliance of the Bat and the Marine had saved 2 worlds, proving that even the most disparate souls could find common ground when the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. As the sun rose over Metropolis, Batman returned to his patrol. The city was loud, chaotic, and imperfect, and he wouldn't have it any other way. For in the imperfection lay the humanity that Lex Luthor had tried to discard, and that the Kalos had fought so hard to protect. The adventure had ended, but the legend of the VekTa Militarium and the Dark Knight would be told for generations on the planet of the purple skies, whispered by the wind that blew through the Mayan spires and the Gothic halls of the brave.